Recording in progress. Okay, okie dokie, okie dokie. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh, Photoshop? Yes, Photoshop. Okay. So last time we talked about resolution and image size and how like you only have so many pixels. So you get to decide how densely packed those pixels are versus spread out, you know. So that's what resampling is all about. Like if you change the size of an image, but you choose not to resample, the file size will be the same. It'll just be higher or lower resolution, but you maintain all of the same information. But I don't think, or maybe we did, you can correct me. I don't think we talked about canvas size. And that's when, if you're increasing the canvas size, you're adding pixels to the image, but you're not necessarily you're adding pixels to the file, but not necessarily, well, depending on how you do it, you could just be putting white pixels all around, or you can use some generative tools to replicate the actual photo. But there's a few different ways to go about this. I am getting ahead of myself here. Before I wanted to go over canvas size, I actually wanted to go over the crop tool. Okay. So here is this right here. This little icon right up there. It looks like an L this way and an L that way crossing over. That's a crop tool. Back in my day, because I'm ancient, I actually used a physical crop tool. So it had two pieces of plexiglass. And what you did in order to, you had to develop the photo you were going to use in the dark room or a lab or something. And then you determine the size that you want the photo. Now, do you know the term aspect ratio? Very important graphic design term.
It's like what length by width, right?
Uh-huh.
Like 3 by
What
4,
am
4
I
by 6.
writing here? This is crazy. God. Aspect ratio. So it's not necessarily the size of the image, but it's the proportion of the image. So it's a ratio. Remember ratios from high school or junior high? I don't know. What do
I've
you?
forgotten everything.
I don't remember. But I mean, this might be 2 and this might be 4. That doesn't mean that's 2 inches by 4 inches. It just means that this side right here is twice as long as this side right here. So if this side right here was 8 inches, this would be what, 16? That's aspect ratio, and it's represented by a like a colon, 9/16 or 9/16 aspect ratio, 4/6 aspect ratio, 6/4 aspect ratio. Yeah. So so this cropping tool, you had to determine the aspect ratio of the space on, like, if it was a newspaper or something, the aspect ratio, you determined the space that you had for the photo. And then you had this proportion wheel, which is like this little tool that we use that had an inner wheel and an outer wheel and all these numbers on it, and you matched up the aspect ratio, and then it gave you all the possible other values, and then you use this. Let's see if I can find a photo of it. I mean, this, you'll never come across this. It's probably pointless information for you, but I feel like I need to share this with the next generation. Cropping tool, um, uh, physical. Okay, Gemini, here we go. Yeah, it looks like this. Yeah. Yeah, so you would get it into line around the area, and then you would tighten that there's a bar right between them. And once you tighten that bar, you could expand and contract it, and it would maintain the aspect ratio. But you could explore different sizes, and then you could go over to your photograph and then figure out where you want it cropped, and then you get a grease pencil and you like make marks, and that told the printer where they should crop the photo. And then you gave them the percentage of, expand, size it up or size it down or whatever. So there you go. There's your trivia for today. All right. Oh, really? Oh, fun. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've done that before. Okay, so I'm gonna move this annoying bar out of the way. And if we wanted to, let's say, expand, we need this picture, we need more of this picture, but we don't really want to sample up. There's a few different ways we could do it. We can go to image, and then last time we looked at image size, but if you go to canvas size, here you can change the canvas size of the image. So right now it's at 4,000 by 2666, evil number. So if I wanted to add like 200 pixels on all sides, let me put that there, and then I would make this uh 30, and you can tell it where you want the image to be locked. By default, it's in the center, but I mean, what I'm wanting to do is add canvas to the top, all four sides, but I could lock it up in the corner and it would add canvas to the rest of the image. I'm gonna leave it like that. And then canvas extension, color, background, foreground. I'm just gonna leave it as background of white, and I say okay, and then it adds this order around, and then I can fill that with color if I want to. I could take and transform the image and increase its size if I wanted to. But let me show you a different way of doing that, and that's, I got ahead of myself again. I was gonna do the crop tool first. Damn it. Okay. I even looked up the crop tool. Okay. Using the crop tool. Okay. Crop tool. It's easiest, just hit the letter C, or you can click on the crop tool icon and you get these sort of handles on the side here. And I can, if I wanted to actually crop the image, I can bring it, grab these handles, bring it down. I can, up here, I can specify exactly how many pixels or inches or whatever, up in the control bar up there. But one thing that is important, and then I can actually click and drag and move this around too, compose my image. But there's this box up here. It says, delete cropped pixels. If you have that checked, once you hit enter or the check mark, all the pixels outside of this frame are gone. They are no longer available to you. I mean, you could, Command Z undo, but once you save that file, you can't go back to them. So it's up to you, and if I don't click this, they'll still be there. They won't be visible, but I could go in and I could drag the image and I could recover some of those pixels. But if you're pretty sure you're never going to need them, you can delete them and you save file size. Okay, not such a large file. Yeah. So I could, and then if I want to, I'm happy with this, I can hit return, or I can click this check mark here, and I've got a cropped image. So this is the traditional use of the crop tool, is to actually crop, right? But it can also be used to expand the image, the canvas, I mean. So I'm going to hit C, and then instead of dragging into the image, I'm going to drag outward. And I'm getting here some the checkerboard pattern, which tells me that it's going to be transparent, the area that's being added, which is fine. I could choose to fill it with a color, or I could create another layer beneath it and fill that with a color, and that would work fine. But there's also some, okay, transparent is the default, but we've also got these two fairly new to Photoshop, these AI tools. And this one's really interesting. Content aware fill. Pretty crazy. It means that it's going to actually expand the image. Like, it's going to invent more mountain and invent more water and invent more rocks. And sometimes it works out really great, sometimes it doesn't. You can rerun it a few times to see if you get a better result, but let's try it. Let's say that. We're going to hit check. We got to give it a second because it's doing its AI thing. Okay, so it kind of worked. Like, this side's looking good. That's not so bad. This ain't working right here. But then you could start with that, and then there's other tools that you can use, like healing brushes and stamper tools and things like that. You could actually go in and hand edit the little areas that didn't work out. But I think it's a really interesting tool. I mean, you want to really look for repeated patterns. Like, that's kind of a repeated pattern right there. I don't know, the trees look a little bit different. But it's not bad. It's not bad. The other thing you can do with the crop tool is straighten an image. So if you notice in this photograph, the horizon line is a little tilted. So I'm going to hit C again. And if I go up in this corner here, I get this right here, and it gives me a grid, and I can adjust the horizon line, hit return, and let it do its magic. I don't think I did a very good job of that, but whatever. You get the idea. Um, uh, so yeah, I mean, Photoshop is doing a lot of new stuff with AI. I think they call their AI engine Sensei. I went to a Adobe Max conference a couple years ago, and they were like, Sensei, Sensei, Sensei. Everything was Sensei. They were very excited about it. I'm gonna get rid of this. Okay. Uh, yeah, so that's, two different ways to expand your canvas. You can use now, but the only way to do that generative fill thing is with the crop tool. You can't do it through the canvas size menu. It doesn't offer that option. So you have to use the crop tool. But yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, let's talk about layers, because layers in Photoshop get crazy. Okay, in Illustrator, you can, kind of control. I'm gonna have this many layers and I can expand and contract them and blah, 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 blah. Photoshop, like everything's a layer, everything's a layer, everything's a layer. You can group them into folders and organize them and label them and things like that. But layers is very intense in Photoshop and takes some, uh, you know, organization to make yourself not go berserk when you're dealing with your file. So I'm going to open up. I posted in Canvas. If you want to follow along, there's a zip file here with um, a whole bunch of different uh, images that I was just going to mess around with and see what happens. I don't know. It might fall flat on my face. It's been known to happen. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm gonna navigate to, here we go, my layers palette. I've got an image here of some arugula. I think that's arugula, or is that watercress? We're just gonna call it greens. Yeah. And then also got pears. Okay. So I'm going to open both of those up. So I'm going to hit Command to select both of them. Right click, open with Photoshop. Okay. Okay, so now I've got my greens and my pears. I'm done with mountains. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay. No, no, no. No, no, no. What do you want from me? What? Really? What does it want? I don't understand. It's not letting me. Oh, this was hidden behind. Okay. All right. So I've got these two, and I noticed that when you open up a document, whether or not you're opening up a blank document or you're opening up a photo, the first thing you're given is a layer called background. That's what you're given. And there's things you cannot do to the background layer. The background layer cannot have transparency. So if I did something like, crap, where's the erase tool? I don't know. Where's the oh, right here. Here's the eraser. If I tried to erase some of this, I'm not seeing that checkerboard pattern, I'm just seeing white. So, but you can change that simply by clicking on, there's a lock icon next to the word background. If you click on that, now it says layer 0. Now I can see that transparent checkerboard pattern when I erased some of the pixels. So, just so you know, you're always going to start it with background layer, but you can change that. So if I wanted to work with both of these images in one file, there's many ways to do it. Excuse me. Not gonna throw up, not gonna throw up. Okay. There's many ways to do it. I could just copy and paste one into the other, but one way to do it is to go to view, is it screen mode? No, crap. How do I get to where I can tile them? Crap. Arrange, window, arrange. And I'm going to say tile all vertically. Why not? Okay. So that puts them in different panes. We did this last time. So now what I can do is if I click on the pairs, all of a sudden those layers become active. If I click on the greens, those layers become active. So I'm going to click on the pairs and I'm going to grab this layer here and I'm going to drag it over. I'm going to hold down the shift key because I want to position it right in the center. I'm going to hold down the shift key and there we go. So now I don't need this pairs layer anymore. So now I've got pairs. I've got 2 layers, one with pairs and one with greens. And I'm just going to turn the greens into an actual layer and not a background layer. And what can I do here? Well, we're going to learn a lot more about masking and adjustment layers and things like that. But for today, we're just going to navigate through this layers palette. So let's say I wanted, what?
Duplicate the background layer, it just creates a different layer.
Yeah, that's true. Let's play with this frame tool. Which is similar to masking, but a little bit different. I think the difference is that it's actually vector. But we'll talk about masking later. So I want to reveal only half of the top image. And in order to figure out exactly where the half point is on the screen, I'm probably going to want a guide. I'm going to pull a guide out to help me. So in order to do that, I need to turn on the rulers. So window, oh no, it's not window, it's view rulers, Command R. Okay. And it's giving me, so I've got these rulers on the sides here, and it's giving me pixels, but I can change that if I didn't want to like do the math to figure out exactly where half was. I could right click on it and change it to, well, any of these inches, picas, points. I'm going to choose percent. Okay. And now I've got percentage. So see how it starts at 0 and goes to 100. So if I click and drag from the rulers panel, I can come down until I find, and it actually snapped. It actually snapped to the 50% mark, which is very convenient. That's what's called a smart guide. If you don't want your, like if you're working with a grid or something like that, you can have guides snap to the grid. If you don't want that, you can change that in view, and then the word snap is right there. There's also snap to guide, snap to layers, snap to document bounds. You can turn that off if you want to, if you want more nuanced flexibility. So now that I have that, I'm going to grab this frame tool here. And I'm going to start up in the corner here. I want to make sure I'm on my hairs layer, so layer 1. So I'm going to, in my layer palette, I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to drag from the corner here down halfway to my guide and the other edge. And it's snapping for me. And then there we go. And you'll notice in the layers palette, now there's like 2 thumbnails. One of them represents the frame that we just created. The other one represents the actual photo. So if you want to make edits to this, you need to make sure that you're clicked on the appropriate one. So right now I'm clicked on the frame, the image layer. So it's moving the image around inside the frame. If I click on the frame layer, I get these handles again, so I can adjust the frame if I wanted to. I could move well, I move the whole thing, but you can edit the frame that way. And then if I just click on the whole layer, then I'm actually moving the whole darn thing. So there we go. And with the frame tool, it comes in 2 flavors. You get rectangle and you get ellipse. So if you wanted to make a circle, you can make a circle. That's all you get. If you want a polygon or some other organic shape, you're gonna have to do it a different way. And there are many different ways in Photoshop, as in many graphic software and code. There's always like 5 different ways to do something. So just keep learning and picking up new tricks as you go along. Let's bring in some more images into this file. So I'm going to go back here. I've got peppers, pumpkins, strawberries, and tomatoes. I'm going to grab all of those. I'm going to open those with Photoshop. Okay, now I've got all those open. Let's do the whole tile thing again. Window, arrange. I don't know, 4 up. Oh, that doesn't give me everything. Arrange tile all horizontally. Yeah. All right, we'll make do with that. So I'm going to select and then hold down. Wait, how do I bring them all in at the same time? Oh crap, I can't remember. Oh, that's using bridge, I'm not getting into bridge. I'm not going there. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm gonna drag the layer in, hold shift, drop it in done with strawberries. Pumpkin. Drag it in, hold shift. Okay, done with pumpkin. Peppers. Drag it in, shift. Ah, it didn't shift for me. Okay, fine, whatever. I'll live. And tomatoes. Click on the layer, drag it in, hold shift. And it didn't do the shift thing again. Damn it. All right, whatever, I can fix this. And you know how I can fix this? Because we have, just like in Photoshop, we have alignment tools. That is what I meant. Yeah, that is what I meant. Just like in Illustrator, we have alignment tools. So I am clicking on one layer, holding down Shift, clicking on layer 4 so that all of them are selected. You can also command click each one separately if you want to. And then I've got up in my control bar up here, I've got these alignment tools. Now they're not aligning to the middle of the page, which is what I want. Oh, so if you click on the double, the 3 dots, there's this whole align to, and you can choose selection or canvas. So I had selection turned on, so it was averaging the position of all of those layers and finding the center of where they were positioned. But if I want them in the middle of the canvas, I change align to canvas, and now I can choose center and center again, and now they're all in the center like that. Okay. What am I doing with this? All right. So, one of the trickier parts to, when you're working in a more complex Photoshop document is how do you select the layer that you want? You can go over to the layers panel, obviously, and then click on that layer and, start shifting it to the side or something like that. But sometimes you'll have so many layers that, that it just becomes a mess. So, our move tool here, whenever you want to get it, you hit the letter V. Okay. And it's going to sort of target whatever's on top. So if I click on the pears and move it, it moves the pears. If I click on the peppers and move them, it moves the peppers. But I can also, by right click here, this is where it comes in handy to label your layers, which I probably should have done, because layer 2, 3, 4, 5 doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know which is which. Let's just say layer 2. Now I've got layer 2, so if I start nudging this one with the arrow keys, I can see that that's strawberries. Okay. All right. So let's make a layout out of this. I want some space down here. I'm going to turn off the greens. So I hit the eyeball and turn it off. I want some color there. So I'm going to hit there's a plus sign right here, or you can no, you can't right click. We'll hit the plus sign and you get a new layer. And it goes right above whatever layer was selected. I actually want to take it all the way down to the bottom. And I want to fill it with edit, fill, and then I'm gonna say not black. I want the background color, which is white, which I can tell by looking at my little swatchies over here. Background color is white. So I'm gonna fill it with that. So now I've got a white background. So, what else was I gonna show you? I'm gonna make some more guides here. I'm gonna bring this out about 10%. And then on the other side, oops, to equal that, what? No. To equal that, I'm going to put one at 90%. So there's a 10% margin on each side. Okay, now I'm going to take all 4 of these, move them down here. And then I'm just going to grab one of them, move it over to the side here. And I want to spread them out. So I'm going to select all of them and I'm going to choose right here. This is the distribute, not align, but distribute. So it'll take all 4 of those and distribute them across the space with the equal amount of distance between them. We did this in Illustrator, it's the same thing. So there we go. We've got a nice like a little grid um of produce. Okay, I don't want to look at my grid lines anymore. I'm finding them distracting. I'm going to say view, show, guides. It's command semicolon if you want to know. And I'm going to put that right there. So I still have my greens, but I don't think that's a very good background. I think it's kind of distracting. So I'm gonna leave it here. But like I said, you get to the point sometimes where you have so many layers going on, it's getting really confusing. So if what I think would be a good idea right now, since all these 4 images kind of all serve the same purpose, they're a group, I'm going to group them. So I'm going to select them all, shift, click all, and there's a little folder right here. I can click on that folder or I can hit Command G and it's going to put them into a group. And then I can expand that or collapse it. And this becomes really handy when you've got a lot of stuff going on the screen. And I'm going to double click on it and change its name to small images. And then now the nice thing is if I just click on that folder, they're grouped. So wait, no. What did I do? Click on the folder, double click on the folder? No, wait. Option click? No. Damn it. Command click? No. Why can't I? They're supposed to move as a group. What am I missing? What did I forget to do? There's probably a step here that I forgot to do. Yeah, but there's a way to like just select the folder. No, cancel. I mean, yeah, of course I could shift click on all of them and then I could move them around. I'll have to get back to you. I did. And I just get one image. Do I have to lock it? No, it's not an option. Cancel. Still gonna do it. Okay, I'll have to. I did it earlier today and I can't remember how I did it. This is why Google is your best friend. Okay. But you can also duplicate layers. So if I wanted to duplicate like the pairs, I can select that layer. I can go up to this little hamburger menu, click on that. It says duplicate frame, frame. Well, is that going to duplicate the whole layer or just the frame? Yeah, it duplicates the frame. Okay, I guess that's about the same thing. Well, no, it's not actually. Um, oh yeah, it did. It actually made another layer. I'm actually just gonna delete that, but you can make duplicate copies of layers that way. And then I just showed you how to group. So let's talk about file size for a second. Um, it's really great to have all this flexibility where you can go in and make changes to your file and not lose information and be able to go back and re-edit and things like that. But it adds to the file size, the more layers that you have. So down here in the bottom left corner, there's like some text, some information, and then a little like parrot icon. So the carrot icon tells us that there's more options here. So if I click on that, right now I'm getting document dimensions. So it's telling me how many pixels it has and what the resolution is. But if I change that to document sizes, now I'm getting different information. I'm getting two separate numbers here. One says 30.5 megabytes and the other says 125 megabytes. What that's telling me is that the 125 megabytes is the size of the file if I saved it just as a pure Photoshop file. Kept all the layers intact, any kind of adjustment layers I have, any kind of smart filters or anything like that. That's the size. If I were to take all those layers and flatten them and just save it as like a JPEG, that would be the file size. I actually think it would be a little smaller depending on what compression level you're using. But we can play around with this. Like if I was getting out of hand, it's running really slow or something, you can choose to merge layers together. So if I wanted to, I could select all these smaller images and then I can right click or use the hamburger icon and say merge layers. And now they're all one layer. Okay. And look at this file size is now, it was 125. Now it is, what is that? 86. Okay, so I just significantly reduced my file size, but I can't edit those images individually anymore. I mean, technically I could go in and select each one and like crop it out and put it on another layer and, go to all that trouble. Yeah, so a lot of effort. And in a pinch, you do what you gotta do. But I just want you to be aware that, for for every layer you're adding file size. For every, adjustment layer you're adding file size. I'm gonna undo that. And because I want, what if I want to make these smaller or spread them out or something like that? I want that flexibility. We can also take the nuclear route and actually flatten image. Boom. Discard hidden layers. Okay, so that's asking because I have this one layer here with the greens. It's saying, do I want to, if I flatten it, I'm throwing all that pixel information away. Okay, let's say okay and see what happens to the file size. Now it's 30.5 megabytes. I'm gonna undo that. Okay. So sometimes you need to do this, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I've done this a lot in the past. Like, I'll take all of my layers, like all of them, make a whole nother copy of them, and then flatten that copy, and then hide the original layers so that I'm just working. I can't recall an instance why I did this, but I've done it many times in the past. I can't remember why. But for some reason I needed just a flat image of what I was working on, but I didn't want to lose my layers. I mean, I could have just exported a JPEG too, but I didn't want to have to open it up again, and who knows why I did that. I don't know. I was stupid. All right, so that's merging and flattening layers. And let's bring in one more image here. There's a TIFF logo. I'm going to add to this. Okay. Ignore that. Okay, so this is a TIFF, which as you can see supports layers. Not a Photoshop file, but it supports Photoshop layers, so it can be very handy. And I'm going to once again go to window, arrange, tile, and I'm going to grab, it's in a folder. If I just drag the folder over, will that take everything with it? Let's see. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah, it worked. Okay, so I can close that. I don't need that. And I've got this logo here. And the nice thing, it comes, it now that this is important to notice. It was a folder, a group of layers came over when I dragged it, and I had the tomato layer selected, so it put it directly above the tomato layer, which is not really where I want it. I don't want it inside of that folder with all of those other smaller images. So it's just a matter of, I'm just gonna drag it up to the top here. And once I see that blue line, I know I've reached the top and I can drop it there. And now, and it nicely comes with these transformation handles here. So I can, what? Rendering will cause its layout to change. No, I went to, I think I'm having a font issue here. I think that's why this is happening. That's okay. So I'm going to hold down Option or Alt so that I kind of stay centered here. And then I'm going to move it up and put it like right there. And I'm going to hit to finalize this transformation. I'm going to hit return. And well, I'll hit V so I get out of that selection tool. And then the reason I did this, I wanted to show you can control opacity. So in the layers panel up here, there's an opacity option. You can either click and use this slider, or if you just drag on the word opacity, you get this scrubber where you can just sort of go through it like that. You can type in an amount if you want. Right now I'm adjusting the opacity of the entire group, but maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I just want to affect adjust the opacity of the circle so that the black pops. So I'm gonna bring that down a little bit, maybe a little bit more, something like that. Okay, 80% looks good. All right, very good. Click outside. Do you guys have any questions? I haven't even given you a chance to ask questions. Is this making sense? Yeah, okay, all right. Okay. Yeah. So now, right now, notice the file says greens.jpg. We actually want this to be a Photoshop file. So I'm going to say File, Save As, and name it Harvest. And then want a .psd file, and I'll just leave it in that folder there and save it. And so now I know I'm assured that this is an actual Photoshop file, and the next time I open it, I will have all these layers to work with. But it is also possible we can export this as many different types of file formats, but you can also export each individual layer as their own image. So if I go to the layer panel and I go to, crap, where is it? It's export as, it's layers. Export as, where is it? Show layers, lock layers, merge visible. Do I have to select all the layers? Layer. Export as. I guess I had to select all the layers. Okay. So under layer, go export as, and you get this dialog. There's this box here, this preview. Give it a second, and it's organizing all. So now I can see all of, now notice it's taking the group and making that one image. Okay, so just be aware that it does that. Let's say I don't want the greens and I don't want the white. I don't need just an image of white. I'll just take these 3 images here and I can choose the size. If I want to resize them right here, I can do that. I can choose the format. Right now, PNG is good because I want that transparency. But for the pairs, they don't really have any transparency, so I'm gonna choose JPEG and make sure it's like a high quality. And for the logo, yeah, we definitely want PNG because we got some transparency going on there. And you can also do something really cool. You can export, and this can save you a lot of time, multiple copies of them at different sizes. So right up here, it says scale all, and the default is 1, so it's just not scaling them basically, but I could hit plus, and then it gives me 0.5. I could, so it'll be half the size. So it would export 2 images, one of them at full size and the other one at half size. And this right here, this text right here is the suffix. So it'll take the name of the layer. I didn't name my pairs layer. I should have done that because when you export them, it takes the name of the layer and makes that the file name. Would have been really handy if I'd named it pairs, right? Didn't do that, so let that be a lesson. But it would, it would be pairs at 0.5x, and I would have 2 separate files of that image. So I'm not gonna do that right now, but just so you know, you can do that. You can have lots of, and that's really handy if you're like designing a web page and you've got lots of images on the web page. Eventually you're going to, those images are going to be taken into code and be put together with code. So you're going to need them as separate separate files. So it's a really nice feature. It'll just poop them out for you. It's great. Any questions? So far, so good. Okay, I want to talk briefly about blend modes. Maybe you've played with them before, maybe you haven't. Let me go into let me grab this file in here. Um 7 15 okay, all right. Blend modes. Okay, I've got this file here. There are 2 layers. There's this sort of desert texture, landscapey kind of thing. And then on top of it, we've got this watch, and you can see that there's 3 swatches, medium, 50% gray, a white, and a black. Blend modes are ways of taking 2 layers, and sometimes they're hard to describe. You just kind of have to play with them. They are algorithms that look at the pixel information on the 2 separate layers and do something to it mathematically. Multiply it, subtract it, kick out the white, kick out the black, add noise. There's a whole bunch of them. Some of them are hardly ever get used. Some are, more commonly used than others. They kind of fall into different categories. And you can do this in Illustrator too. Illustrator has blend modes as well. And you can do this in many different graphics software, even in code. So it's right here. Right now it's set to normal. Okay, normal is, well, the standard. You're gonna see every pixel as it is. Uh, let's click on that. And there's all these different okay, you can see a quick preview as I scroll through them. It's giving me a preview of each one. And like I said, each one is a different algorithm that blends the pixel information of each image together. Dissolve, you kind of need to have some opacity for that one to work. And it starts to create this sort of speckled effect. So basically, I don't claim to understand the logic behind all these algorithms, but from what I understand, it picks pixels at random and will display some and not display others. But you have to have some people say this is not actually a blend mode. It's just sort of a version of transparency. And then we've got these ones that darken the image. And if you can see by looking at the swatches on the side that the ones in this category here they're throwing out the white. The white is disappearing. So all white or very light areas of an image are disappearing. The most common of these to use is multiply. You can do a lot of really interesting stuff with multiply. It's very handy for retouching images and doing photo composition, composites and things like that. But you just kind of scroll through them, play with them, and see. But multiply is very popular. Next group of them, now look at the swatches on the side. We're getting the opposite. The white is preserved. The black is gone. So where there was black on the side there, we're seeing nothing. The other image is shining through. So black is being taken out. So the most common of these is screen. Screen gets used a lot if you want to lighten an image. You can play with these other ones too. But multiply and screen are I think the most commonly used ones. And then these other ones are somewhere in between. Like look at hard light here. In this case, it's the 50% gray, the middle ground of the pixels is what's being removed from the top image. Same thing with vivid light, linear light. That 50% gray one, hard mix, I've never used that one in my life. I have used overlay before. Soft light can be very handy. You can play with those. Difference has more to do with color value and not necessarily like brightness. So it's making calculations on the actual color value of the pixel. Again, I don't claim to fully understand how these algorithms work. They've been around for years and years. I don't know when they were established and who decided that these were the blend modes that we will use for all time in all graphic software. But these are the ones that are available. And then hue, saturation, color, luminosity are kind of like they sound. This one affects the hue. It takes the pixel on the top layer and the pixel on the bottom layer, and it does some calculations, and the color output from that changes. Okay. Saturation affects the saturation. I don't know the difference between hue and color. Um,
Color
y-
is like the color balance, so like how much yellow there is, and then hue is more specific.
okay, that makes sense. And then luminosity, as you can see, the white is preserved, the black is preserved, but the mid-tone is affected. And you can use these in combination with opacity, to create different effects. Anyway, they're there, play with them. When you're trying to put a few different images together, you know, just try out different blend modes and see, what kind of effects you can create for your photo compositions, your photo composites. We will be doing a photo composite project coming up, so you'll want to become familiar with these. Okay, what else do I have for you? I don't know if we need to talk about color. I mean, we talked about color in Photoshop. It kind of works the same way. One thing we didn't actually play with, which I should have tinkered around with, was the eyedropper tool. And you can either hit the letter I, or it looks like an eyedropper. Okay, it's underneath the frame tool, and you can extract any pixel value from anywhere on an image. So if I wanted this red, strawberry, pinkish kind of color, I could click on that. And now you see my swatches over on the side. That has become my my foreground color. And I can save that if I want, if I know I'm going to want to use it later, by double clicking on it and clicking on add to swatches, and then I would give it a name. Excuse me. Just say okay. I've just saved that pink to my swatches. So if I go to my swatches palette, it's going to show me the most recent colors I've used. And there are some libraries here that you can explore. But if I scroll down, it'll give me the different ones that I've saved. I'll say peppers. Okay. And say okay. And if I want to, I can grab these, shift click on both of them, and make like a new group out of them by clicking on the the folder icon. And now I have this folder of produce colors, and I can go back and forth between those. And we already talked about color space and color mode and all of that good stuff. So, but you can, yeah, you can organize your swatches that way, and you can actually import swatches from another Photoshop document. So if you spend a lot of time making a really nice color palette and you want to use it again somewhere else, you can just import it. And yes. How are we doing? Do we need a break? I only have like one more thing I wanted to get into. Yeah. Uh, this will be fun. This is the fun painterly part of it. We're going to play with the brush tool. Okay. Brush tool. This is why I think things like the brush tool in Photoshop make I think Photoshop is more people find it approachable than Illustrator because it's kind of like intuitive. Like you see a brush tool, you know what a brush does in real life. You click on the screen and you can paint. Okay, it makes sense. Vectors are not intuitive. Okay, the pen tool is not intuitive, very powerful, really important, but there's more of a learning curve to that. That's why I think Photoshop is a little bit more approachable. But that said, Photoshop is also a monster. So and the brush tool is one of the biggest monsters in Photoshop, but there's so many brushes and you can make your own brushes and then you can customize them and blend with them and just play with it a little bit. Now, I don't have with me a pressure sensitive tablet. I haven't used one in a year. I used to use one constantly when I was a freelancer. Actually, it was really great because I was spending so much time, in like this position. I was getting like neck and back issues. And then I bought a pretty big sized Wacom tablet. And I started using that instead of a mouse or a trackpad. And I would put it on my lap. So I would be in like this position. It was so much more natural and like all my pain totally went away. It was awesome. But I haven't used that tablet in years. It probably isn't even compatible with my laptop. But I do have one of the big iPads with the pencil. It's pretty cool. But I don't really use it that much. But if you're interested in doing more like illustrative, painterly kind of projects, it might be something you would want to invest in. We don't have any that I know of in this classroom unless it's locked away and I don't have a key. I know that in ED 174, in one of the cabinets that like nobody has a key to, there's a whole nobody has a key to it. I used to. I don't know what happened to it. But yeah, it might be something that you might be interested in the future. Ask for one for Christmas from your parents. Yeah, it's a good investment. All right, let's play with the brush tool. Yeah. Let me open a new document. And I'm just gonna go with what it says here. It creates, okay, and there's my canvas. Okay, right now I still have the eyedropper tool selected. So I'm gonna go down, you can just hit B, or you get the brush tool. So right now I'm seeing just like a little crosshairs, which is telling me that my brush at the moment is very, very small. But I can increase that by using the square brackets next to the P, the letter P key, the square brackets. And if you hold no, shift doesn't do anything. You just hit those and it increases or decreases them. Or you could just hold it down and it goes crazy. And I've got that pink selected. Let me just click and drag. So it's basically, if you really look at it, it's just making a whole bunch of circles, one on top of the other. So I'm really not getting the smoothest line there. But let's dig in a little deeper here into the brush tool options. So I'm going to the window, brush settings. Okay, here's where the fun starts. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. A lot. I mean, a lot. This you can spend hours customizing brushes, making new brushes, saving brushes. Oh my God. But there are some settings we should experiment with. Right now, where do I start even? Okay, so there's some basic ones that show up in this dialog box when you first open it. We're on the hard edged, just general elliptical brush. But notice here in the preview, it's got pointed edges to it, and that's telling me that it's probably pressure sensitive. So if I had a tablet, pressure sensitive tablet, I think I took a screenshot of this. If I had a pressure sensitive tablet with me, where did that go here? Yeah, it would look something like this. There's different types of pressure sensitivity. So like with this one right here, there's very little pressure being applied, so it's a skinnier line. And then over here, the pressure goes up and it gets fatter. In this case, I can't remember what you call this one. We'll probably find it in the menu. Light pressure means very transparent, and then a harder pressure becomes more opaque. So, I mean, that's what's fun about working with a pressure sensitive tablet. But anyway, let's get back. If I hold down shift, I can make a straight line. Also, if I hold down shift, click, and then click again, I'm getting straight lines. So you can make corners and things like that. Oh boy, there's so much here. I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about flow. Flow is like the speed at which, I don't know if speed is the right word, the speed at which the color comes out. So right now, see, it's very, it starts very light, but then you can build up over time if I just keep on painting. I don't like how this is doing all those different circles. Let's choose a different brush. What about this guy? This is nice. Okay. That's better. But that's flow. Flow doesn't seem to be affecting this guy so much, really. Well, it was a little bit transparent on the edge. Again, this would be much more evident if I had a tablet. Smoothing. Right now, if I'm trying smooth, those aren't the smoothest curves I could make. I'm on a trackpad, obviously. It's not ideal. But if I turn smoothing way up, it's going to soften those curves. So I have it at like 79% now. It takes a little while, but I'm getting much smoother curves to my strokes. So that's kind of fun. There's also uh symmetry. This is really interesting. We've got all these different options with symmetry. So the basic one would be vertical. And all, once I click that, it's offering me this dividing line. So that's going to be the middle. And then if I don't want to do that. And then I go back to my, okay, I'm going to click OK. And now I can I could make a butterfly. But there's all sorts of different types of, there's radial, and you can choose how many, it's kind of like spokes on a wheel. I'm going to crank it all the way up to 12. And now, and then I click the check mark to say, yep, that's what I want. And then I go like this, and I make something awesome. That. And then there's also mandala, which is similar but different. I click that, and then I gotta hit return. And then it does both like radial and symmetry at the same time. It mirrors and it's radial. So you can make some really, really cool effects that way. But I'm gonna put symmetry off. Symmetry off for now. Whoo, let's look at some of these other ones. Shape dynamics. I can adjust the, right now it's a circle. I could change that to be, well, actually, I don't have it on circle right now. Let me put it back on circle and bring this down. Now it's a little bit more calligraphic, as in calligraphy. Another cool thing is you can play with blend modes with brushes. The blend mode is so if I said multiply, like if I do this normal, I'm getting this pink. Oh, smoothing is driving me crazy now. I'll turn that down. I'm getting this pink, but I can't make the pink any darker than the swatch that I created. But if I change the blend mode to multiply, so remember multiply is one of the darkening blend modes. They've got darkening ones, lightening ones, and then the medium ones. Now, as I go, I'm actually, if I go over myself again and again, it's adding up, it's multiplying the values of those pixels, and I'm creating this almost like a watercolor kind of effect. There are actual watercolor brushes which we can play with, but oh, and there are oil brushes too, yes. Oops. Um there are scatter brushes like this that create kind of like there it's almost like a rubber stamp kind of thing. They've got an image, a bitmap image, and they're just sort of like just like machine gunning the whole page, and I can adjust um the spacing on them, so it would only do it so large, and so now it's a lot larger. What happened? Oh, the flow is way down. Okay. Um, so I'm getting this sort of effect. I can change, I can skew it. I can flip it. I can change the size. I can do all sorts of stuff like that. Um, Texture brushes are well, okay, let's look in this menu here. There's a tab right here. We're in the brush settings tab. There's also a tab called brushes. And this is where you're gonna find what are called libraries. So collections of different kind of brushes. So there's general brushes, dry media, wet media, and special effects. Let's look at wet media. These are fun. I'm going to choose the wet blender. This one's really cool. And I'm gonna have to go back to here. I'm going to create. Problem is here is that it's basically like painting with water. Oh, geez, what's going on now? It's like painting with water. So you may have a color selected, but the wet blender is like you need to have color on the canvas already. So let's go back to general brushes and let me what what happened? How come I can't draw? What did I do? Okay, there, now we have some color. So now I can go back to brushes and choose wet blender, and let's crank it up. And then now that's more like watercolor. So if I start with the white and pull into the pink, it's sort of erasing it. If I start with the pink and pull out, I'm dragging pink into areas that didn't have so much. So you can play around with this one. There's oil that kind of it's more like a smudger, like you're This is not a good example here. Let me make it larger. Yeah, it's supposed to replicate like oil painting as you drag a paintbrush through different colors of oil paint, it picks up the pigments and smudges them together. Yes, and you can clean your brush, and there are even brushes that start sharp and wear down. So if you wanted some pencil like effects, I can't remember what they're called, something about tip. Worn tip. Is that it? And you can resharpen them, but they start out with a nice crisp line and then they start to get thicker and fuzzier. And as you go along, it's, so you can get really realistic, um, uh, options that way. I showed you the shortcut of, okay. Oh, I'm still on oil. I showed you the shortcut of the square brackets to, there's also a shortcut for, um, for the hardness of it. So you can have a very soft brush, you can have a very, like this is a hard brush, it's got a hard edge. This right here is this, let me make that larger. This has got a soft feel to it. The shortcut to adjust the softness of a brush is Control Option and then click and drag. So if you're on a PC, it would be Alt Control or Alt Option or whatever the equivalent is. And so, and I'm gonna do it this way. And that absolutely didn't work. Okay. That did not work at all. I was doing something, I'm getting like feedback from it. Hardness 70%. Yeah, okay. Then why isn't it doing it? I don't know. I don't know. As you can tell, I'm not a real expert at brushes. Yeah, I have to admit it. Yeah, not. I mean, there's a few that I use over and over again, but I've never like made my own brush. But you guys are resourceful enough. I think if you wanted to make a custom brush, you could look it up. Find a tutorial. Basically you're just taking a bitmap image and turning it into a brush. So next week we will get into selections. How do you isolate areas of an image and just modify that one area? Masking, how do you isolate an area of an image but not destroy that image? You're not throwing away pixels. We really want to, in Photoshop, focus on what's called non-destructive editing. There's a lot of when I first started doing Photoshop, I didn't even have layers. And then masks, then we could mask things. That was incredible. But you can create masks that will hide parts of your image, but you don't actually lose that pixel. It's kind of like the frame that we made today with the pairs, kind of like that. So Any questions? All right, let's call it a night. Let's call it a week. How about that? Let's call it a week. Although I have to get up early and write a report, I have a meeting tomorrow, and a meeting, another meeting, and